let's say you're trying to land a new client, and let's say that deal is for 200K. How would you go about landing that? Would you put together a PDF without talking to client? Of course not. So why are you doing that in your career? You're going for those big roles, 150K, 200K, 300K, then why are you going for those roles by submitting a PDF? The new reality of the job market is that with AI, there are now thousands of applications for every role. Standing out is becoming more and more difficult. Employers are looking more and more for skills that AI is not going to take over. And that is what? Your soft skills, your EQ, your communication skills, your leadership skills. So let's talk about where employers find candidates at the senior level. They want someone who essentially comes recommended or someone that they know already because it's safe, it's fast, is what people actually call the hidden job market. This is where really most of the hiring realistically happens. Ask yourself, wait, am I being proactive here or reactive? Welcome back to the Career Dive podcast, my friends. Today, we're talking all about how hiring actually happens behind the scenes for mid to senior roles in this AI new era and new market. And today's episode is really inspired by you, as it usually is, because what I've been hearing a lot is, listen, Anna, I am experienced. I have over a decade, oftentimes a couple of decades of experience. I've worked for big companies. I have these big director and above titles. And now that I'm job searching, it's just not working. What is going on? And they would tell me I am tailoring my resume using AI. And they're very, very kind of happy that they know how to do this. And they tell me, I tailor my resume. It looks so good, but I'm not landing interviews. What is going on? So that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this episode. So we'll talk about the traditional job search approach, why it's not working today in this AI driven market, and why it's not working for mid to senior roles, even though in the past it might have worked for you. We'll talk about where employers and how they actually find hires. And then we'll talk about what proactive versus reactive job search actually is. So let's dive into this episode. So, traditionally, when people job search, what happens? They tailor their resume, they submit the application online, and then what? You kind of just wait around, right? So you have really no control over what's going on. You have no idea where the company is in the hiring process. Are they towards the end? Have they started already? Why are they reposting this job later on? Why did you get rejected immediately, even though you feel like you're such a good fit? You're just kind of in the dark completely. And here and there, you get an occasional interview. So it feels that you have no control over the situation. You're unclear on what's actually going on. And I call it you apply and pray. You apply and pray that someone will pick up your resume, that you will get noticed, and that you will get that interview. And what I want for you to start thinking about is, and when I share this example, I find that, or this analogy rather, I find that it resonates with a lot of people. So I'm going to share that with you today as well. In your job, let's say you're trying to land a new client and let's say, or a new deal, and let's say that deal is for 200K. How would you go about landing that? Would you put together a PDF without talking to client, just a PDF of, hey, here are all the things that we have done as a company. Look, can I now have that deal? Is that how you're going to approach it? Just sending them a PDF about you? Or, or you're going to look at it differently. You're going to think, okay, who do I need to meet with? Who is the decision maker for this deal or decision makers, rather? Okay, what do I need to know about them in order to tailor my quote unquote PDF, my pitch, my proposal, in order to tailor it to them? you're probably going to take months realistically. And if you've ever done a deal of that size in corporate, you probably know that it often takes more than months. It often takes a year, if not a couple years, to get a deal of that size. So you are not just going again to send a PDF with how great your company is into the void and wait. Just send it once and just wait. Of course not. So why are you doing that in your career when you're doing that for yourself? You're going for those big roles, 150K, 200K, 300K. Some of our clients in the Start Canada program are going for 250, 300K roles. Then why are you going for those roles by submitting a PDF, right? Like if you compare how you would approach this in corporate, that's just insanity. You would never do that going after a client or a big deal. So why are you doing this in your career? So I'm hoping you start to kind of see, aha, so maybe there is something there with my online applications. Now, let's talk a little bit about AI and how AI has been shifting the job market. And I actually believe that this trend will continue to get even stronger as AI is integrating in our work and life more and more. The new reality of the job market is that with AI, there are now thousands of applications. They're AI generated, AI supported, thousands of applications for every role. In the past, when we kind of transitioned from paper to online applications, we went from a few to hundreds. Now we went from hundreds to thousands. So, from the employer's perspective, that's just a lot. And sure, they use AI to screen those. But that's why they screen out anything that's not a perfect match. There are just too many. And employers are honestly a little bit overwhelmed with what's going on. And which is why standing out, you used to compete with hundreds, now you're competing with thousands. Standing out is becoming more and more difficult. Another side of AI is that employers are looking more and more for skills that AI is not going to take over. And that is what? Your soft skills, your EQ, your communication skills, your leadership skills. And how are you going to show that? Not by sending a PDF, but by having real conversations with real humans and showing them that, hey, I have that. I can build a relationship. I can speak with that right presence. So, for them to see that, you need to get in front of them, not by waiting for the system to magically select you, but by doing that proactively through hint networking. And that also trickles into how interviews are now seen and run, that all those skills are now so much even more important to showcase in your interviews. All right, now let's spend some time and talk about hiring at different levels. So think of it as like a pyramid. So at the bottom, like the heavy bottom, the bigger bottom, is entry level roles. So how many roles are there and how many candidates are there who can do this job? The most are at entry level. Next step, next stage kind of is 5 to 10 years of experience. So not really entry level, but still early in your career. Then the next stage in that pyramid is mid career, and then at the top is senior and then executive. So the more senior that you are in your career, the less roles exist and are available altogether, but also there are fewer people who can do this job. Now, think about it from the employer perspective. Because there are fewer roles that exist at the top, each of those roles is critical to the business, right? And you're going after the critical role for the business where they want to see your leadership skills and your EQ and your communication and your critical thinking. You're going for that with a PDF. You're starting that journey with just a PDF. Now, at the same time, for the employer, because there are fewer people, because they're so much more critical for business success, those people are also a lot more expensive. So hiring the wrong person is very expensive for the employer. You're going for a 300K role and you're not the right person. Just think about how much time it took them to find the right person, to interview you, to get you up to speed when you start. Like it's at least realistically 6 months. And then if 6 months in, they realize, you know what, this was not the right fit and they have to do it all over again. It's probably another 6 months to hire and for that person to get up to speed. It's very expensive, not just in your salary, but in any sort of missed opportunity, in, again, time and money, team trust. So employers cannot just rely on this journey to start with really a PDF. And the final part here is something I've talked about on the podcast already, but it's important to remember is that if an employer just posts that job online, it's what, a couple of weeks? So the chances that someone perfectly qualified, that perfect person, which they already know, there are not a lot of them, not as many as, let's say, at entry level, that person is looking and available and sees that posting and applies within those 2 weeks that the posting is up, the chances are actually pretty small. That's something that I learned very quickly in recruitment, that you don't just sit and wait for that perfect person to come to you. Because if you're hiring for, you know, a 40K role, there are, again, hundreds of people who can do it. But at that very senior level, they're not. You have to be out there looking for people, is how hiring works. So let's actually now talk about how employers approach it, now that we've talked about how they think and some of the challenges that they're seeing with hiring at this level. So let's talk about where employers find candidates at the senior level. So first they look at, well, who do we know already? Quite literally in those senior rooms when they realize, okay, we need a new director of marketing. They actually look around and they start kind of this conversation internally first. Is there anyone that we know already? Because again, it's expensive to make that mistake to hire the wrong person. So they want someone who essentially comes recommended or someone that they know already because it's safe, it's fast, and again, they just trust that person a lot more than someone they just met on the internet. And I've shared this before in recruitment when I was in recruitment sales for some of the biggest banks, for example, here in Canada. We had the sales meeting with my team 3 times a week, every day in the morning, and we went through our open roles. And we always asked, hey, do we know anyone already for these roles? So that's where employers, just hiring managers, always start with. Is there anyone we know already? Let's reach out to them first. Let's have this chat with them first. All right. Next step here for the employer is, okay, now that we've kind of started with this internal room and small insider room, they go and think, okay, well, is there anyone, like, let's ask around, is there anyone who we might know directly, but anyone, okay, now that employers have looked at, okay, who do we know like immediately right now? They start expanding this a little bit and start thinking, okay, is there anyone that kind of our circle knows. So they start asking around, hey, like, do you know anyone maybe who is looking for a director of marketing role, or maybe not even looking, but this is the type of experience that we're looking for. They maybe have worked on these projects or these type of challenges. Anyone who comes to mind. And again, for that same reason, this is where they always start. And those two first steps, so who do we know already, or asking around for essentially introductions and referrals, is what people actually call the hidden job market. Because this is where a candidate who has reached out to them directly. So, a candidate who has built that relationship with that team because they're interested and they have their eyes on that team. Hidden job market doesn't mean that none of these roles will get posted. Often, organizations require for the roles to be posted. But by the time the role is posted, they're already talking to a couple of people. That's why it's a hidden job market, because either those roles don't get posted or they get posted, but they essentially already have people that they would ideally want to hire, or that they're kind of moving along the process first and faster. Okay, so those are the first two steps. Now, from there, sometimes they just have one or two people they love, and that's kind of it. Now, the next step from here, if they don't have enough candidates, or if again the company is required to kind of post this and for this to be a little bit more of a public process. From there, what they actually do, where they rely on candidates, is they go and proactively look for them. So they headhunt for those candidates because, again, you're looking for someone specific. The cost of making a mistake is high. So, and we are not sure that this person, the right person, is going to apply. So let's make sure we find them. Maybe that right person is not even looking right now. So let's reach out to them. Let's reach out to the right people proactively. So let's headhunt them. Now, if you're going for any sort of change, you're not going to be headhunted because a headhunter is looking for a perfect fit. So again, someone who's done this with a competitor. And this is where really most of the hiring realistically happens. People that we know already, asking around, and then headhunting. This is where most people get hired at mid to senior roles. Now, the final step here is to post a job online. And yes, sometimes those jobs do get posted because they have to be posted. But what you're not seeing is all the work that employer has already done before you see that role. Realistically, a lot of the time when you see a role posted, it's kind of almost too late. And oftentimes, employers or rather recruiters would look at those applications and they would select a few, but you're oftentimes, again, already behind. And you're coming in at a disadvantage compared to someone that they know or someone who's met the team already, who knows the projects and the problems and can be performing in interviews at a very different level because they can really speak to employers' challenges. Now, this final step, posting the job online. Realistically, if you think about where you spend time is in this fourth step, right? You see a job posted and then you apply. So it's very reactive. You just see kind of this last bit of it. You're reactively applying without thinking about all the steps that employers have taken already. And then you're just kind of waiting, right? So instead, where you need to focus is those first three steps, right? So who do they need? Who do they know already? Uh, they're asking around for introductions and they're getting headhunted. So you need to be mirroring what they're doing so that you get to be known in those rooms where those conversations are happening so that they know you by the time they're thinking of that role. And this can also look like even when the role is open, it means that, okay, well, who do I need to know so that they know me when I apply? Even if it's kind of a little bit late, but it's still a strategy. And it's a better strategy and a lot more effective strategy than just applying and waiting. So let's kind of summarize here what proactive versus reactive job search approach is. So a reactive, again, is waiting for the role to be posted publicly and then only approaching those open roles by what? Tailoring your resume and applying online. And then again, relied on your resume, on that PDF, to stand out without any insider support. So no one on the inside is advocating for you. Hey, you should talk to her or to him. She's awesome. And reactive also means that you're competing with other candidates after the hiring process has already begun. So you're already in disadvantage. Now, what is reactive job search approach? Well, first, it means that you're building visibility at target companies before roles are even posted. Hey, I want to work there. Who do I need to know? Okay. Friends, you have to start doing that before roles are open. If you want to work at your dream company, start meeting people today. Proactive job search approach also means developing relationships with insiders who can advocate for you. It also means that when there is a role open, so you see that role open, instead of just applying and waiting, you again go into the mode of, okay, who do I need to know? Who do I need to meet with? Who needs to know me so that I get an interview, so that they know how awesome I am? And I don't rely on this one PDF to do the selling for me. And proactive also means that you're getting ahead. You're proactive. You're getting ahead of the process instead of waiting for this kind of last final piece to happen and for the job to be posted online. So I challenge you, friends, to start questioning your own approach to job search. Every time you're on LinkedIn scrolling and you're tempted to just click on easy apply, which I know is tempting, ask yourself, wait, am I being proactive here or reactive? And what would someone going for a 200K job, what would they do? Would they be proactive or reactive? In fact, take it further and ask yourself, how would I need to be showing up in this 200K role? What kind of professional do I need to be in that role? What do I need to show the employer? That I'm proactive or reactive? Probably proactive, right? Like that's what employer would want from you in that role. So show them that you are proactive. And if you're not sure, okay, Anna, this all sounds great, but how do I actually do that? Well, I teach you how to get in front of the decision makers, how to find them, how to get them to connect with you, how to get a meeting with them, how to lead that meeting strategically. So it's not just a nice chat, but you actually turn it into next steps and opportunities and introductions and interviews. I teach you step by step how to do that in the Start Canada program. And you also get a lot of personalized ongoing support, meaning that you go for a conversation, but then we can actually debrief together. We can continue to elevate and tweak your strategy so that you actually learn the skill and you're not just relying on a couple of templates. And if you are someone who doesn't want support, who doesn't want to go fast, but you kind of want to go casually at your own pace by yourself, by all means, join Network Like a Pro. I teach you how to network inside the course as well. It's do it yourself, so there's no support. And I do actually see often that our clients join Network Like a Pro and then they don't really act on it as much until they get into the Start Canada program. And that's when they really take this proactive approach to the next level because inside of the program again you get that accountability and support and we're working on your strategy together. So just look at how you work best and how fast you want to go and where you want to start. So I'll see you hopefully either in or Click a Pro or the Start Candidate program. That is it for this episode. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.